it's really moving to be here. It's a privilege to be here, to see all those films. What Jim said is so true. This year has been an incredible year. Usually when events like this happen here, usually just honoring independent films, and the studio films don't necessarily pay attention to serious issues. And I think there's been a real turn of events here. And I can tell you, to see the nominees for the most valuable films, first of all, on behalf of Jacques Audiard with Rust and Bone and Michael Haneke, we were involved with those films. It's just a pleasure for them and for us to be involved with those pictures that were named. I was called last night, very late, and asked to do this. You will find out why eventually. And there are a lot of people in the room that we've worked with over the years, a lot of producers, a lot of directors. Where's Mario Adorf? Mario Adorf was in a movie that I had in 1982 called Lola by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, and I always wanted to praise him for that incredible performance. And I'm in a room with him. That's just so great. Anyway, I want to make a special mention of our friends from Chile. They have a film called No, and it is a magnificent achievement, and you're honoring them tonight. And the fact of the matter is, it is the first film in the history of Chile to be nominated for the Academy Award. And to Juan and to Pablo Larraín, of course, the director, and of course Gael Garcia Bernal, who gives the performance of a lifetime. It is a movie that says more about dictatorship than any movie we've seen in many, many years. And it's just great that you are honoring this kind of monumental moment in the history of Chilean cinema. And I think we need to congratulate them for that. I'm here to present the most valuable documentary. And they gave me some words to say, so I'm going to say this because they're pretty good. Throughout history, documentary film has encompassed a broad category of visual expression that is based on the attempt, in one fashion or another, to document reality. Documentaries show us the real world, what is wrong in our world, and how change is possible. This year's nominees have a wide range, from Ai Weiwei's struggle for freedom to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, AIDS activism, and the desire for more independent media in the U.S., Orphans in India, and the resurrection of an anti-apartheid hero in South Africa. A documentary with an important message is not enough. It must also make a lasting impression, and it must also influence change. And all the following nominations do that for this year's most valuable documentary award. Let's see the nominations.
To many of us South Africans, he was the soundtrack to our lives. Really, the first opposition to apartheid, they'll tell you that they were influenced by Rodriguez. And then we found out that he had committed suicide.
And what I thought was the end of story was actually just the beginning of another story.
There was nothing on the record to tell us who he was or where he was from. So we started looking quite deeply at the lyrics.
I met a girl in Dearborn.
We found him, we found him.
Sixto Rodriguez is alive and kicking.
I heard he did like a little construction work.
Well, I do hard labor. I demolition, renovation of buildings.
Doing the work that no one else wanted to do. Rich in a lot of things, but perhaps not material things. So other people are rich.
I said, in South Africa, you are more popular than Elvis Presley.
Next day, he says, Emerson, I got to go on tour. I said, why is that, Rodriguez? And
It took a while. There was about 5 or 10 minutes of just people screaming at him.
Thanks for keeping me alive.
自由很奇特的，你经验过就会在你心中就会存在了，这个东西谁也拿不走。
谁啊？警察！
娘了个逼的，祖国！
我还认出你了，是你。
原来有流氓的一面，就是他知道怎么对付流氓。因为共产党就是流氓，绝对是流氓。
So don't push. It's not happening.
Good evening. We have a lot of news to tell you about.
Giant media corporations decide what is news and what is not news.
It's to control people's ideas. It's to control their imagination.
Well, we basically supported the Bush policy.
The news we rely on is in the hands of commercial enterprises.
If it didn't appear in the New York Times,
Fox News,
CNN, it never happened.
בשנותיו של אברום, אחרי שנים שהמוסד היה הגורם המודיעיני המוביל, השב"כ הופך להיות גורם מוביל.
נחקרו בשירות הביטחון עשרות אלפים, אם לא עברנו כבר את המאות. במלחמה בטרור, שכח את המוסר. בפצצה של טונה, שכח את המוסר.
That the PLO officially announced that it had abandoned terror and violence and recognized Israel's right to exist in peace and security.
לא מגיעים, לא מייצרים שלום בשיטות צבאיות.
40 million infected people is a plague!
This government has the resources to deal with the AIDS epidemic, and they won't do it unless we force them.
Someday, there will be a people alive on this earth who will hear the story that once there was a terrible disease and that a brave group of people stood up and fought, and in some cases died, so that others might live and be free.
في مرة اجى مهندس إسرائيلي يعمل كاسات عشان يبنوا جدار فاصل وسط أرضنا. لما أصور الكاميرا بتعطيني إحساس بإني محمي، بس هذه أوهام.
רגע התחיל המאבק על קיומה של ישראל.
ידי הצבא לצורך אזרחי ולא צבאי. מעשה כזה הוא הפרה בוטה של הדין הבינלאומי. בג"ץ מורה למפקד הצבאי לפנות את היישוב אלון מורה ולהשיב את הקרקע לבעליה החוקיים. כיום חיים בשטחים שנכבשו ב-1967 500,000 אזרחים ישראלים.
I was never intending to go to the AIDS orphanage. That was never my plan. I didn't really like kids, to be honest with you. Being there, seeing that they're in despair and they're hopeless, and you're like, man, they're kids.
What's your name? Surya.
I can't take any of them out of that situation, but I can put myself into it.
There's like a sense of madness that comes with loving things that can come and go. You know, the children have invested their trust. That's the only thing they can give, is their trust and their love. To just leave, I think, would be incredibly selfish.
I have to tell you, I can't remember a year when there have been so many incredible documentaries. Every one of those films is masterful filmmaking and really expresses profound ideas and encourages people for change. And I would say that they're amongst the best documentaries ever made to be in this group. 4 of them are nominated for Oscars. It's an amazing group of films from all over the world. This year, I would love for the Oscars to be like this, you know? Because this year they've chosen 2 films to win. And they both happen to be films that I'm involved with and Sony Pictures Classics is involved with. The first film for the most valuable documentary award is Searching for Sugar Man. In the 80s, the music of Rodriguez served as a hymn against apartheid. Unfortunately, the legend said that this particular artist from a section of Detroit, Michigan, had killed himself from depression of failure on the stage. It was a journalist who is with us tonight whose persistent investigation led to the rediscovery of a hero from far away in America, whose music inspired a generation in apartheid-era South Africa and whose recognition was 20 years overdue. Rodriguez was broke, had not a clue about his success in South Africa, and when he was resurrected by this gentleman and by this film, directed by a brilliant filmmaker from Sweden, who's also from South Africa, named Malik Benjelloul. Rodriguez sold out for the first time in his life in his concerts. At this very moment, Rodriguez is playing for some 50,000 people in South Africa on a sold-out tour. So let's bring up here the first recipient of the most valuable documentary of the year, Craig Strider.